I'm Aaron Isaken. I live in New York. I'm one of the partners of Indie Fund. And this talk is about how indies can help fund other indies who want to make really great games. So making a successful game is really hard. You have to first design an amazing game. You got to get a ton of feedback. You got to work on it, iterate, and then you have to get the world to notice that your game is great. And that's just really hard to do. And at Indie Fund, we want to help make that easier for people. Okay, so what is Indie Fund? We're 7 independent developers who are investing in games that we liked to play. Our goal is to help indies get and stay financially independent so that you only come to us one time for money and then you don't need to do that again. That you've made enough money on your game that you can go out and make the projects that you really want to make and not worry as much about the commercial aspects. When we give money, it's not something that we can take like an okay game and make it a great game. You really have to start with a great game. And we're just trying to amplify what you are creating in order to make it just the thing that helps make you financially independent. We fund games and not studios. So that means is that we're not looking to like fund 5 of your next games. We just want to do the one project that you're currently working on and make that a success. We're not venture capital, so we're not investing in your company. We don't have any equity in the games. We don't, not looking for you to sell your game to somebody else. It's just a matter of us giving you a loan and then you pay back the loan. The loans are usually between $10,000 to $150,000. The lower the loan amount, the easier it is for you to get the loan approved. So, we really encourage people to try to make the games as cheaply as they can. We can go up to even higher, up to $500,000 or more, but it requires us to work with other people to kind of bring in other partners. And Indie Fund is also a little bit of a brand. It helps when someone sees that a game is indie funded, especially the press. When a press sees that a game is indie funded, they pay a little more attention to it, I think, because it's like, oh, somebody's already vouched that this is a good game or something worth looking at. So who are the people in Indie Fund? We have Jonathan Blow, who is famous for making Braid, working on The Witness, and working on making programming languages, evidently. Ron Carmel made World of Goo and is working on a really cool multiplayer game called Subterfuge. Kyle Gabler, also World of Goo, Little Inferno. I don't know what he's working on now, but something great, I'm sure. This is me. Kelly Santiago was president of that game company and is now at Ouya. Nathan Vela, Cappy, just did Super Time Force and Below. And Matthew Wegner helps run the IGS at GDC and working on a really awesome brawler called Aztez. So lots of experienced people. We also have some scouts, and the scouts help us go look for games. So all 7 of us are really busy with our own companies and our own projects, and so these people are hired to go and spend time looking for games, researching, reading news, seeing what's out there, seeing what's really interesting. And sometimes we also fund projects with other people. So if a project asks for an amount of money that's larger than we're comfortable with, we'll put together some people together to help fund those things. So we did that like with Space Base, 9, and some Double Fine games, and some other ones too. So we have 25 games that we have funded so far. I'm just gonna go through real quick and show some pictures of them. Save some time by blowing through these. But Shadow Physics was actually the first game that we did, and this game actually never launched. And part of that is because we funded it too early. It was still like in a prototype phase, and it's really hard to know if a game's gonna be great until you see a lot more of it. Dear Esther was our first game that actually launched. Cube was the first game that we did where we didn't actually know the people personally. So these people we just found on the internet. Antichamber, Monaco, Swapper, Super Splatters came from Israel. This is Double Fine, which was our biggest one. That's a pretty large studio. They also funded Hack and Slash. Mushroom 11 is a small team. So we do games of all different sizes. Donut Country, again, different art styles. Faraway, really minimal. This game has been years in the making. This is a really awesome sounding game. Panoramical doesn't use the traditional definition of game, but it's still very much an interactive experience that produces emotions, and that's, to me, what's really important about what games do. Sound Self is similar in that way. So just lots of really cool games. This one, the developer actually is hand drawing all of the artwork. This is from Argentina. This is a game that came out of NYU's Game Center. So this is actually a student game. This is a team from Europe. This is a first-person kind of violent teamwork, first-person shooter thing, which is cool. It's a little bit different than what we normally fund. And then there's more games that we haven't even announced yet, but we've signed stuff for. So let's get into our terms. Like I said before, this is a loan, so we don't take any debt, we don't take any collateral. If something happens, you don't ship your game, we don't own your house or your pets or anything like that. It's just, it's just a loan. Once we decide to fund your game, we either give you all of the money or half of the money, depending on how much you're asking for. And then you get the other half when you meet, when you need the money, you come back to us and say, hey, I've done this much, can I have some more? Once you launch, you have to pay us back 100% of the money that you borrowed. So if you borrowed 30,000 euro, you would pay us back 30,000 euro. And then you pay us 25% of your revenue until we double our money. And at that point, you're free. There's no more relationship. You don't have to keep paying us revenues for the rest of your life. And also, there's a 2-year time limit. So if your game launches and it doesn't do super well, again, it's not like you're writing us checks for a penny for years. And we also have an open source contract. So if you can look directly at what we're doing, and also if you ever wanted to fund something that your friends are doing, this is a contract you can use, and we highly encourage people to do that. What do we look for in a game? There's really so many great games that are out there, and so it's really hard to go and try to pick which ones are going to do well. One thing that we look for is a game to have something very special about it, because games that are special are games that people are going to talk about and share with people. And so it's kind of a way of kind of saying oh, is this going to be something that's being talked about, or is it just kind of a copy of something that we've already seen before? We look for a demonstration of creative ability, that you can really create something new and interesting, that you know how to talk about your game, you know how to make a trailer that's interesting, you know how to make a web page that quickly shows what's interesting about your game, and the technical ability to make what you want to you say you're going to do. And the best way to do this is for us to actually look at a playable game. So we don't just take here's my proposal, here's my document. We don't care. We just give us a game, let us play it, and we'll decide if we love it or not. And like I said before, finding games to fund is pretty difficult, but we do have an online form you can submit. We go to lots of things like this, and always happy to talk to people. We're always at conferences and online and answer emails and that stuff. So one thing that Mark wanted me to do is really say, how does this kind of relate, to everybody in this room, even if you're not going to get a game that's indie funded. And I think some of the takeaway lessons here are that, it's really important to help each other, to work within your community. Indie Fund was just started by us. We literally started it at a GDC pizza party that we were having. And somebody was like, oh, I'm really having trouble getting money for my game. And we're like, oh, why don't we just fund your game? And that's how Indie Fund started. So, do whatever you can to support each other and to work within your community. Show your game as much as you can. Just keep talking about it. If people don't like it for some reason, figure out why, iterate, and if maybe it's just not a great game, and then you move on to a new project. But maybe it's just that you can keep working it and improving it and getting people to talk about it. And also just solve problems as soon as you can on your own. Don't try to wait for somebody else to kind of solve it for you. So Indie Fund, we saw this problem. We had a friend who was having trouble getting money for his game, and we just said, okay, let's do that. Let's solve this problem ourselves. And now it's grown into something that's much bigger than we ever really thought it would have done. Here's a link that you can follow if you wanted to apply, if you have something cool. Or I'll be around this weekend, so just come up to me and say hello. Thanks. And I think I have some time for questions.
Yeah.
I apologize for speaking extremely fast. I always do that.
It's okay.
Someone's got to have a question. Anything.
Hello. Is there any platform restriction for your funding, or you could do mobile game as well, or is it PC only?
Yeah, we funded something on every kind of platform. It could be console, it could be PC, it could be mobile. We don't really know anything about the free-to-play space very much, so it's probably unlikely we would fund a free-to-play game, especially because user acquisition is such an important part of that, and we're not really interested in buying users. But depends really on the game. But yeah, there's no restriction. Okay. Oh, we probably wouldn't fund a board game or a physical thing, because again, it's pretty risky and we don't really know that much about inventory management. Something else.
Hi. I didn't really get the 25% and 200% refund.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Let's say your game, you borrowed $30,000. So you sell your game, you make $30,000, you pay us back. Now, for every $1,000 you make, you have to give us $250 until we make another 30,000, and then we're done.
Okay.
So, or 2 years happen. So if your game, is selling slowly, then we don't double our money. And if it sells super quickly, most of the time what happens is that it's like the first week we're basically done, because the way games work now is that they have a very big launch week.
Yeah, it really depends on the loan.
Yeah, on the size of the loan.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry. If the game just completely bombs and makes no sales whatsoever, like, is that just how do you resolve that? Do you have something there, or?
I hope that'll never happen. It's never happened to us. We have had games that didn't even launch, so in that sense, it had zero sales. It's just that's part of our risk that we're taking. It's not.
So you're taking that part of risk.
That's our problem. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty bold.
Yeah.
The last one.
Hello. I was just wondering if there's a minimum amount of money you would lend, or if
Yeah,
things
that's a
start
good
to-
question. We tried to loan at least $10,000 because we really want the developer to actually need the money. We don't want you to come to us and just be like, oh, I just want Jonathan Blow to tweet about my game, so I'm just going to borrow $20 and then pay him $40 for a tweet. So we want to have the money to be large enough that you actually take it seriously and really are going to use it. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great jam.